Okay, this is part 2 of the introduction and background of Little House on the Prairie. Sorry, I was like too cramped up here. Got this tripod on my coffee table. I'm in front of the TV screen. I actually should put the air on because it's so hot, but it makes too much noise, and so I don't want that to affect the video. But anyway, you just saw the very first video on our Little House on the Prairie series. I was giving you some introduction and some background on Little House on the Prairie, on the real life Ingle family and that whole situation versus the actual Little House on the Prairie series. Most of it is a true story. This is written by Laura Ingalls. She kept journals since she was little. She called it her remembrance book. Every situation, everything that happened, she was writing it down. And then as she became an adult, she turned it into a series of books, which then turned into the series. Little House on the Prairie series. So thank you, Laura Ingalls, for doing that. I was a person that also kept journals since I was little. I don't have them all. I wish I was like Laura, that I had kept each and every one. I didn't think about it at the time. Of course, when I was little, we didn't have social media. We really didn't have access to cameras. It was like almost rich people had cameras, and although my father had a lot of money, and I probably could have got a camera, whatever they had at that time. I didn't think about it, and I always loved pictures and stuff, and we didn't have videos back then. We didn't have cell phones, none of that. But there were so many ways to have kept memories. They're like in my mind and heart, and I could tell you the stories of my childhood and teenage years and up to now. And I have some photos. There was no videos. There were like slides back then, and a family friend had it. And he would turn our photos into slides and then bring a projector and let us see it. But yeah, but I wish journals I could have kept. I wish I had. I didn't. I think as I went through so many suffering times in my life, they got lost in transit. But I have always kept journals up to this very day. So I do have a lot of my adult journals in my collection. But yeah. So I thought it was genius that she did that in real life. And this is how we are able to enjoy Little House on the Prairie series because of her. So in the first video, I was showing you the very first season looks like this. It's Little House on the Prairie season 1. And you see the family picture of them. Baby Grace is not in this picture. So I guess this was up until Carrie, and then later they have Grace. So out of that, you pull this case, and I was showing you this case. It has 6 DVDs, which I believe all the seasons have 6 DVDs. Don't quote me on that. Each DVD has anywhere from 3 to 8 episodes. So you see them, 2, 3, 4, all that good stuff. So I was showing you that. It also comes inside of there in the very front of the case. This booklet comes. So it shows you every season. I mean, well, not every season because this is only about season 1, but it shows you what episodes are on each DVD. It gives you a list, introduction to the characters, an introduction to what the series is going to be all about. Each DVD, what episodes on each DVD. Then it shows you the entire collection, what it looks like if you want to buy it one by one or if you want to buy the entire collection. The way I bought my collection is one by one because the entire collection at that time for me was expensive. It was like $300. And although that would be easy to afford now, like a snap, but I had to collect it one by one. So every birthday, every Christmas, my daughters or a friend of mine would get me 2 or 3 seasons, and that's how I end up collecting the whole season. Now, I got a whole season for my son, and it was only $70 compared to years ago, it was $300. So, and I'm thinking of getting an extra collection just to have in case something happens to this one. That happens to be on one whole, it's like a case, it's like a thick case. And it has all the seasons and all the DVDs in that one case. Mine's is season by season. It's all separated. It's not in one whole case. So I'm thinking of getting that one. I just got it from my son because he loves it. So this shows you what they all look like. And then it continues on showing you every episode on every DVD. So I showed you that in part 1. I was telling you about the real family where Charles Ingalls died at the age of 66, the real one of cardiovascular disease. Caroline died at the age of 84. I think long battle with heart and diabetes complications or long illness. I didn't write it down. I don't know why. Oh yeah, long illness. It says here, I did write it down. So I think different complications. Laura Ingalls died. She was born in 67 and died in 1957. So she was 90 years old when she died. She died of heart disease and diabetes complications. So I'm recapping here. Mary Ingalls died of having several strokes and complications. She died on October 17, 28. She did lose her sight at 14 years old. That was in 1879, all from complications of scarlet fever, which affected her eye nerves. Carrie Ingalls, so I'm thinking, how old was Mary when she died? I think she was in her 60s. Again, a little detail that I didn't write. Carrie Ingalls, born 1870, died 1946. She died at 75 years old from diabetes. Grace Ingalls was born in 1877, died in 1941, like 70 something in the 70s, also died from diabetes. Albert Ingalls was a fictional character that was added and created by Michael Landon, which in the other video I gave you the backstory of how he got the name Albert, all that good stuff. They did have a son, I think Frederick something, Michael Frederick something. That was true. They did have a son. He did die at months old. That was all true. So the Ingalls family is completely true, except with the addition of the fictional character of Albert. And then as you get in the seasons, you'll see that he adopts James and Cassandra Cooper, who their parents died of a wagon accident coming down a hill, and Charles Ingalls was with them when it all happened. So he ended up adopting them. But in real life, that didn't exist. He didn't adopt a James and Cassandra Cooper. So that was also a creative thing that Michael Landon added, which I love because I love the story of James and Cassandra Cooper. Cassandra is just such a beautiful little girl. And I think she's a journalist now. In real life, and you could still see that same face when she was little, and she's so just amazingly beautiful to me. So I was kind of give you that background. A lot of other characters were fictional. There was no Adam. There was really a Mansell Wilder, and Laura Ingalls really married a Mansell Wilder, and everything that happened to him in the season happened. They did have one child. They had two. One died, as you see in the season, but they did have Rose Wilder. So all of Laura Ingalls' story is true. I think except little small details where I think in the plot, the very beginning of the story, she was a couple of years younger than what they say in the season. I think she was 3 and they portray her as 5 years old. I think just little details of that, but like 99% of the story matches Little House on the Prairie. And then, so there was a real Almanzo, but not a real Adam. Mary never married. Mary never had children. But that was an added thing. And I think if I'm sorry, oh my God. If I put myself in Michael Landon's brain, in his head, I could see why. Because he didn't just want to cut Mary's life at that. She's blind. Okay, that's it. What happens? I mean, the real life story would have been good too. She ends up staying, when she's blind, she stays. She doesn't go to a school, I believe. She doesn't go to school. She does stay living with her parents. And then when her parents died, which Charles Ingalls died first, and then her mother, Caroline Ingalls, died next, then she went to live with Carrie. So Carrie took care of her to her dying day. You would think she would go with Laura, but for some reason she didn't. She went to Carrie. I think Carrie could take it. And then I think she made these fly swatters, or I don't want to say that. It's something to that effect, but I'll let you know when I get the exact name, for income. And so, yeah, so her sister Carrie took over and took care of her to her dying day when her parents died. But there was no, I believe she did not go to a blind school. She did not marry Adam Kendall. There is no Adam Kendall. That is a fictional character that Michael Landon again created. She didn't have any children, and so that's what really happened. So that's the difference between the real life Mary Ingalls and that. Up until she does go blind, kind of her story after that is not like the real life story. And I could totally support and understand Michael Landon's creativeness to add that stuff, because it also shows that if you go blind, which is a horrible thing, and God have mercy on us all that we never have to go through that. To have the world darken forever and shut down, even though you think, well, I got to see the world, I got to live in this world and experience it, and I know what a Christmas tree looks like. If you tell me, I know what the colors are like. When there's people that were born blind that don't know colors, they don't know the big difference between black and white. And you'll see that in one of the episodes on Blind Journey, where this boy, he experiences racism from Mrs. Olsen, and he doesn't understand because he's never seen color. And he feels like if everybody didn't see color, maybe there wouldn't be racism, which is so, so true. But yeah, so I think he wanted to add that extra content to show that life isn't over, even if it's the most horrific thing that can happen to you. And I think I would feel claustrophobic. I don't think I would be strong to survive it. And so I don't know how this 14-year-old girl did it. But I think he wanted to add that to show people who have gone through this or are going to go through this, that life isn't over, that you can still find the joy and the positivity to go on in life. Life isn't over. And I think he wanted to show that you still could get married if you're blind. There's hope for a marriage. Somebody will love you and accept you for how you are, which Adam did in the season. And that you could still be a teacher. Her dream so bad, and she worked so hard and so long to be a teacher, and that was one of the things that almost destroyed her, is the fact that she didn't think she could teach because she became blind. And then she was show the braille reading and writing, and she was shown that you can teach. You don't need your sight to teach. So she taught in a blind school, and I think that's why Michael Landon added the blind school and her being taught so many life techniques to go on with her blindness, and that her dream of being a teacher did not go in vain. She became a teacher, and it made her the happiest person on earth. Of course, in the season, not in the real life. But yeah, so, you know, I think he wanted to show people that may have gone through this experience or are going to go through this experience that life doesn't really have to be over. You could find the joy, you could find the positive, you can be married, you can still have your dream of whatever you want, whether it's teaching or whatever, and that she can have a kid, even though she lost her baby in the season. And they decided not to have any more kids because it was just too difficult with them being blind, even though Adam recaptures his sight, because his blindness was caused by an accident, like a hit on the head. And he was blind for a long time, but he had another accident that re-brought his sight back. So they're blind together for a good while, and then he gets his sight back, and he ends up able to help Mary even more and even see her. He already could feel, you know, she was beautiful, but he was just amazed of how beautiful she was. So, and I think that's why in the rest of the season they don't go on to have kids, because they were already worried about having children, and if they ran off or something happened, that they couldn't help them because they were blind themselves. So how could they help a child? So they had these serious concerns, especially Mary, like, I don't think I could do it. I mean, I've accomplished so much. I've married, I've accomplished being my dream thing of being a teacher, and I'm sure I could do a lot more. But she felt like a child was a huge responsibility, and it wasn't fair to the child. So even though they tried it, and again, their child died and it didn't work, it was just confirmation to her, see, we can't. And so we're okay with that. They made peace with that in the season. So yeah, it's really interesting, Little House on the Prairie. You guys are going to love the series. So I'm trying to see if there's any more background. Now, it says, doing my research, it says that Mary, Carrie, Grace, and Caroline Ingalls in real life all had scarlet fever. But Mary was the only one that was affected. Like I said, it affected her eye nerves, and she ended up being blind. But they all had scarlet fever. I'm trying to see what else I put here. I told you about the plot in the other video, that was actually, even though this first episode in this first season is Harvest of Friends, that is actually not the first episode. The first episode is a 2-hour series called The Plot. It shows how they all began, how and why they had to leave the woods and leave Caroline's mother and father and siblings, and how they traveled through different states trying to find their place, their home, and everything that they went through, and to finally end up in Walnut Grove. So that is the one to see. I love the plot. I could see that over and over again. Also, Harvest of Friends is really good. That deals with them. In fact, let me go into that. Let's go into season 1, episode 1. So according to the book, we'll go according to the book. Even though, again, check out the plot. It's a 2-hour series, which is the real beginning of the Ingalls family and how they traveled and how they ended up in Walnut Grove. So according to this, the episodes of disc 1 is A Harvest of Friends. And I'm going to read the description that they have on it, and then I'll tell you my description. So the description says, home is the nicest word there is, which is something that Laura mentions to her dad when they get their new home, when they end up in Walnut Grove, and Charles makes a deal with the founder of Walnut Grove, Lars Hansen, to build his home. He would work it off. So he worked it off. He gave him the lumber to build his home and all the stuff that he needed. And then he worked it off. And one day he tells Charles, Charles, now I owe you 50 cents. Your bill is paid off. Now I owe you 50 cents. And he goes, I hope you're happy. You should be proud. And he goes, I am. I've been keeping track. So I know. So yeah. So that's how they built their home when they make a deal with Lars Hansen. And then they built a bedroom for Laura and Mary, which is on the loft. And so they finally have a bed, and they talk about how they don't have to worry about the rain and them getting wet from not having a real roof. It was like a tarp that they had as they were traveling from Kansas. And now Charles made them a real bed with comfy pillows and blankets and stuff like that. So Laura says, I thought of something. And he's like, what's that? Home is the nicest word there is. And Charles tells her home is one of the nicest word there is, because of course there's God, there's heaven, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of words that are the nicest words in the world. But he wanted her to know it's one. There's many. It's not the nicest word. It's one of the nicest word. So she says, home is the nicest word there is. The Ingalls settle on the banks of Plum Creek in Walnut Grove. In order to set up the farm, Charles must take on several jobs at once. He even commits to giving up his oxen if he fails to complete one of his projects by the agreed date. When Charles is injured during a family picnic, he can no longer carry out his responsibilities. The children attempt to do the heavy labor until the men of Walnut Grove pitch in to complete the job. In the end, Charles keeps his promise and his oxen. So in this episode, what happens according to my description, he lands in Walnut Grove, and he ends up meeting Lars Hansen, which is the founder of Walnut Grove. He founded it in 1840. And Lars Hansen owns a mill, which Charles ends up working years for Lars Hansen in this mill. And he makes a deal with Lars Hansen, and the deal was if Lars Hansen would give him the wood and the windows and everything he needed to build his home on Plum Creek, which is in Walnut Grove, that he could work it off at his mill. So he does. He works it off. He worked from sun up to sundown. You'll see that in the season. And so he works it off. But plus, he takes on, oh my God, what's happening? He takes on several jobs because after he builds the home, which I believe it took months, and he paid off his bill with Lars Hansen. Then Lars Hansen, when that happens, he offers him a job. He's like, when you're ready and you get some rest, I want you to come to work for me part-time. And he's like, thank you so much. So he knew he had a permanent job. He's like, thank you so much. I would love that. But then he needs seed to do his farming, so he can make a profit and he could provide food and all this stuff for his family. And he wants to pledge his first crop's income. So he goes to the mercantile and he meets Nels and Harriet Olsen. Nels had met him first already once. And then he's like, this is the guy that I'm telling you about. His name is Charles Ingalls. And he goes, I need some seed for 100 acres. I don't have any money. And of course, the mean Harriet Olsen says, no, because you know how many farmers come and we let them borrow and then they leave in the middle of the night. And he goes, I can assure you, I had no intention of leaving in the middle of the night. So he walks away, and Nels, poor Nels, he's like, Mr. Ingalls, I'm so sorry, Mr. He goes, I understand, and he slams the door. So then he sees that this guy's roof is falling that does sell seed, and he goes, I can give you something other than money that is worth it. He goes, what could help me other than money? And he goes, know-how. I could rebuild that roof, make it so nice for you. And he goes, and he's like, okay. He goes, I don't have any money. He goes, thank you for wasting my time. He goes, no, 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 but I have the know-how. I can make sure that roof is good, that it will never collapse again. And then he says, oh, he's going to have some seed delivered, and if he could stack though, but all this deal has to be done in 3 weeks. So the guy wants collateral. He's like, you have my word that both things will be done. The roof on your shed and the seed loaded and stacked up in 3 weeks. He goes, you're putting on a lot. He goes, it'll be done. You have my word. But he wants something more than Charles's word. He wants some collateral. So he saw that he got some oxen from Lars Hansen, and he's like, you know, I want that as collateral. And so he signs it over that if at the end of 3 weeks by midnight, if he didn't complete the job, he would turn over his oxen to him. And he can't survive without that oxen, but he knows for sure he's going to get it done because that's how he is. But he has, in this whole time, kind of have neglected his girls and Caroline. So, and he kind of gets grumpy, and I guess he tells them to be quiet. He's tired because he not only does that, he also gets a job with another guy building his, it's kind of like a mill thing, but a water shaft thing. I don't know exactly how you call it. And the guy's like, I don't have money to do it. I'm going to have to, you know, to do a new one, I'm going to have to wait to the spring or something like that. And so Charles Ingalls like, I really need the job. And he goes, I can't. So then Charles Ingalls, as he starts to leave, he realizes, I can rebuild that one, not wait to do a new one. I can fix and rebuild that one. So he offers it to the guy. The guy's kind of hesitant, and he's like, I don't know. And he goes, you have my word. And so they go inside the house and discuss what he can pay Charles. He also asks a blacksmith, which is Hans Dorfler. I think his name is Hans Dorfler. And he's going to do some, clean his stalls and stuff like that for him. So he, mind you, he has 3 jobs. So he's going to end up working 15 hours a day, part-time at the mill with Lars Hansen, part-time fixing that roof on the shed of the seed cellar, and stacking his seed, which is a bunch of sacks, and doing the rebuild on this guy's water thing. So Caroline's like, that's too much. You know, you're going to miss church. When do you have time for rest? You know, you have to come here and stuff like that. So he gets kind of grumpy, kind of mean with the girls. It doesn't actually show when he does that, but he comes home one day really happy, and he notices the girls are in bed early, and he's like, why? It's not even dark outside or something like that. And Caroline kind of explains to him what's been happening. So he goes up and he, you know, tries to make it up to him and tells him a story about his own story about a mean farmer who kind of neglected his girls. And so they realize that he's talking about them. And then he says, well, this grumpy farmer wants to take his girls on a picnic. So they're all excited. They hug him. So they go on this picnic, and they're just full of joy and just full of happiness to have their dad back and have a special day, a picnic with Caroline's amazing cooking. And they're having fun, and he's flying a kite. The kite gets stuck in the tree. He crawls up, climbs the tree so high that he ends up falling and breaking his ribs. So he ends up not being able to do any of the jobs, but the guy who made him sign the collateral over the oxen has no mercy on him, care less that he's hurt and that he has a real reason for not doing it, doesn't want to extend him any time. He comes, when Caroline is using the oxen, he said, your husband didn't complete his job like he said, and unfortunately I have to take the oxen. She's like, please don't do that. Well, if your husband was in my shoes, he would do it. No, Charles Ingalls would not. So, and I think Caroline should have said that, but she didn't. So he takes the oxen. So she tells Charles, and then Charles, like, he gets up, he's bandaged, because that's what they used to do with broken ribs back then. Now they don't, because it makes it actually worse now. He gets up, he goes, I'm going to tell him off. He should have never did that. And she's like, don't, just stay in bed. She doesn't care about that. She just wants him to get better. And so he goes to him, and he goes, I want to see the thing that he signed. And the guy's like, what do you want to see? Today's the last day. And he goes, oh, you want to see the time? He said, well, you have to midnight. He goes, then I have I think it's 4 more hours or more to finish the work. He goes, the way you look, there's no way you're going to be able to finish the work. And he goes, you stole my oxen because I still had up to midnight. Don't you ever do that again. And so he goes to start to do it, holding his ribs, trying to stack the sack because he finished the roof, but he didn't finish the sack, the seed stacking. So then the doctor and Lars Hansen and all the Nels and everybody sees Charles over there when he's supposed to be in bed for like 2 weeks. And they're like, what is he doing? And the doctor's like, he should be in bed. I don't know what he's thinking he's going to do. And Lars was like, looks like he's going back to work. And they're like, what in the world? So they see him suffering and struggling to strike. But of course, Mary and Laura had ran after him, you know, had followed him. And they see what happens because he tries to stack it and he ends up falling from the middle or the top again. So now he's injured himself again. So Laura and Mary, poor little girls, they tried to stack it for him. They're like, we're going to do it for him. We can do it. It's going to take longer, but we can do it. And they start. So because the doctor and Lars Hansen and Hans Dorfler, which is a blacksmith, all of them see this. They come and they stop the girls from doing it, and they start doing all these people, Nels, the doctor, Lars, Hans Dorfler, everybody who was around at that time came and did the stacking for Charles, and he was able to keep his oxen. And then the stupid guy, he's like, this was just a business. I didn't mean to take advantage of him. And when I saw the poor girls helping their pa, and he's just like lying and trying to get out of it because now people see how mean he is and how crooked he is and how he can't be trusted or respected. He's trying to save his reputation because he sells seed. So now nobody's going to buy from him. They're probably going to want to buy from somewhere else. So he's like, I swear on my mother's grave. And the doctor stops and looks at him like, how dare you? You're lying through your teeth and you're going to swear on your own mother's grave. Like, that's like disgusting. And so they continue on. They finish it for him. Charles gets to keep his oxen and he's smiling as he see all his friends. That's why it's called a harvest of friends, because he may not have harvested his crop and all that stuff, but he harvested a lot of friends that quickly admired him, respected him, loved him, and were his friends immediately and knew, wow, Charles Ingalls is an amazing person. He's such a great addition to this community. He's going to be an endearing friend to us. And so, and the girls were just happy to see all these friends that their pa had. And so, yeah, it ends like that. He gets back his oxen and then they kind of make up a challenge. Like, he's like, I wish there was something I could do to pay you back. He tells Lars Hansen, doctor, he goes, actually, we're having like a crop, like, preparing the land for crop contests. And we would like to know if we could use your land, because they know he's injured so bad, even now more than he started because of that second fall, that they're telling him that they need it because they're creating a contest, but actually they're preparing his farm for that crop that he's going to profit off of. Because, back then people, they didn't like handouts. They had a lot of pride. It was like they wanted to work for everything they received. They didn't, they didn't want to just be given something. It was kind of like you're insulting them, which I don't understand that. That's one of the things I did not like. Pride is wrong. Pride is wrong from the beginning. I know we all have had it at some point in our life. And some pride is good. Like, I'm proud of my children. I'm proud of my marriage. I'm proud of the things I worked so hard for. Those are good prides. But when your pride stops you from accepting help, sincere help, needed help, I think it's just too much. Nobody's saying you're using or you're begging or you're taking from anybody. It's just we all should be there to help each other. We're all going to go through something. You're here for me today and I'll be there for you tomorrow. Kind of like that. They should have saw it like that. But no, pride was huge in this series and this life story back then in the 1800s. So it was crazy. I hate that. That's the only part I probably hate. But yeah, so my 30 minutes is almost up. So that's what the first episode, according to the series season collection, A Harvest of Friends, it's what it's called. And he realized he harvested a lot of enduring, long life friendships. And so it all turns out well for the Ingalls. It's an episode that I highly, highly, highly recommend. I recommend every single season, every single episode. I would say if you're a first-time watcher, watch it from the very beginning, go in order, and then after that you can pick and choose, because if you go in order, you will get the whole complete look and feel of what the series is all about, and then you can pick and choose your favorites. So definitely watch Harvest of Friends. It's so endearing, it's so emotionally touching, and it's just a beautiful first season according to this. Like I said again, the plot is actually the first episode, but it is not included in the season collection. So I would definitely watch Harvest of Friends. Highly recommend it. 30 minutes and 14 seconds. I got to get out of here. This is part 2. I'm going to do a part, well, I'm not going to do part 3 because now I'm going to go on to season. I'm still in the first season, but I'm going to go to the next episode in the next video. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit the notification bell because that's the only way you get heads up on every time I upload a video. You're not going to want to miss the series edition of Little House on the Prairie. There's going to be emotional episodes, funny episodes, learning, teaching, inspiring, encouraging episodes. So stick with me on this episode, on this series, and everything else I have to offer on my video. So again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video on the second episode for the first season of Little House on the Prairie. Take care.